Welcome back, everyone. We're taking a deep dive today into, well, a kind of different perspective on career paths and honestly, just life in general.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one.
It really is. We're looking at excerpts from a book. The title translates to Hoping Your Child Becomes a Fish, an organizer's biblical view of life. Kind of a mouthful. The original title is in Chinese. It's Yu Chun.
Yeah, catchy, right?
But honestly, it's such an interesting concept. It's like we're getting this inside look at, a father's journey as he tries to figure out the best path for his son.
And it's not your typical career advice column, right? I mean, the core of this book, it's really about this dad's struggle. He obviously wants his son to succeed, but he's asking himself, what does success even mean?
Exactly. And he uses this great analogy from Pokemon. Magikarp?
Oh, yeah, the little fish.
Yeah, the one that everyone's like, oh, he's kind of pathetic. But then, bam, evolves into Gyarados, this, total powerhouse.
That's a great way to put it. The hidden potential, right?
Yes. And I think that's what he's getting at. It's like, forget chasing those, the classic dragon careers, you know what I mean? The super high status, high pressure jobs everyone expects.
Right. The doctor, lawyer, CEO track.
Exactly. What if the real win is becoming the fish? Finding your own unique strength, your own way to evolve that maybe no one expects.
It's definitely challenging those assumptions about success.
So that's where the father's coming from. He's kind of rejecting that whole climb the ladder mentality. And, well, he stumbles across this idea, professional organizing.
Okay, no, that's interesting.
Right. And this is where it gets good. Because he even admits he struggles with organization himself.
So he's not speaking from a position of I've got it all figured out.
Not at all. He's drawn to those home makeover shows, specifically Japanese life-changing home renovation. Have you seen those?
I have. They're so satisfying.
Right. So there's this episode where they help this family reclaim their house from utter chaos, and it just clicks for him. It's like an epiphany. He sees the potential in this profession, especially now, where the lines between, white collar and blue collar are kind of blurring.
It's like he's saying, wait, there's more to this organizing thing than meets the eye.
And that's what he digs into. The book really emphasizes how it's not just about tidying up.
Oh, absolutely. He talks about the skills involved, observation, understanding people, their psychology, and those tricky interpersonal situations. How do you tell someone they need to get rid of something?
Right. It's delicate.
He even mentions 2.0 vision, not meaning, eyesight, but being able to see beyond the surface, grasp the deeper meaning in things that others might totally risk.
Like being a detective almost. Uncovering the stories behind people's stuff, helping them build a space that truly reflects who they are, what they value.
Yes. And then he brings in this whole other layer, the biblical connection.
Okay, that's where I'm really intrigued.
He sees this parallel between organizing and, God's creation. It's this idea that there's inherent order, purpose, kind of woven into how the universe works.
Wow, that's pretty profound. So he's thinking way beyond just a job for his son.
Exactly. He's challenging his son and us, the readers, to think about how understanding human nature, finding meaning in those everyday tasks, is actually super aligned with a spiritual perspective.
That's a huge mental shift.
Yeah.
So it's not just, let's clean out your closet. It's almost like tapping into something deeper, that sense of order that feels spiritual.
Right. And then he gets into the emotional, even spiritual side of letting go. There's this part where he's talking about how facing the memories tied to objects can be a way to work through your past, move forward.
Oh, I can see that. We hold on to so much stuff.
And he quotes Philippians, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead. It's like decluttering becomes this act of letting go, both physically and emotionally, almost like a spiritual cleansing.
It's making me rethink my junk drawer. Seriously, though, it seems like this father's using organizing, this profession that some might see as simple, as a way to have a much bigger conversation about life, purpose, growth, from obviously a Christian viewpoint. He's saying this could help his son grow, not just in his career, but spiritually, which is super fascinating.
Now that makes me wonder how much of that resonates with you. What are your thoughts?
It really gets you thinking. We tend to, put things in boxes, career's over here, faith is over there. But he's blending them in a way that feels, very genuine, very insightful.
It is. He's showing how a job that some folks might see as, pretty basic, like organizing, can actually have this whole other level of meaning. And it's not just a vague good vibes connection. He really gets into how this ties into his Christian faith.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. How does he actually link organizing to the Bible? It's not the first pairing that comes to mind, right?
Right, that's what makes it so unique. He sees organizing as like a reflection of this divine order. He's arguing that just as God created the universe with this built-in order, we can bring that same order to our own lives through organizing.
So it's more than putting stuff away neatly. It's about understanding that there's a purpose and intentionality behind it.
Yeah, exactly. He uses this example, like God created different habitats for different creatures, so everything has its place. And he connects that to how organizers help people figure out where things belong in their homes, creating that feeling of peace and harmony. He even points out that the word create is right there in Genesis. And that was all about bringing order from chaos.
That's a really interesting point. It's like organizing becomes a way of like participating in this bigger cosmic order that God set up.
Exactly. And then he goes even further. He says, think about the Bible itself, all those books written by different people over centuries, yet it comes together to tell one big story.
It's like the ultimate curated library. Each book has its own style, its own perspective, but it's all contributing to this grand narrative about love. About redemption.
Yes. And the Father sees that same potential in what an organizer does. It's not just tidying. They're helping folks curate their lives, tell their own stories through the things they choose to keep, the memories they hold on to.
Like making your personal history, tangible.
Exactly. And he argues that deciding what to keep, what to let go of, can be this incredibly powerful spiritual exercise. It forces you to really look at, what you're attached to, your values, what you want your life to stand for.
That reminds me of what we were talking about, that quote from Philippians, forgetting what's behind, straining toward what's ahead.
Right. He makes this direct connection between decluttering and growing spiritually. You let go of the physical stuff, and it opens up space to let go of baggage, past hurts, anything that's holding you back in your relationship with God.
Decluttering your heart, your mind, not just your house.
Exactly. And he's honest. He says this process can be really tough. You got to be honest with yourself, look inward, and be ready to let go of even things that, they have sentimental value, but maybe they're weighing you down.
So it's about conscious choices that line up with your values, your desire to grow closer to God.
Yes. It's intentional. And he sees it as a way of aligning your life with God's will. Like we were saying, creating order out of chaos, just like in the creation story.
It's kind of mind-blowing how this father's tied these things together, Pokemon, organizing, and the Bible, to get to this really deep point about meaning, purpose, how we live our lives.
It is. It really speaks to how much he's thought about this, how much he wants to engage with his son on a level that's intellectually stimulating, but also, really relevant to their faith.
You can tell how much he cares. He's not just picking a career for his kid. He's thinking about the bigger picture. The meaning of life from this Christian perspective, and how, honestly, we can find that feeling of being fulfilled even in the most, everyday tasks.
And that's what I think makes this, our whole deep dive here so valuable for everyone listening. It's not just advice from a dad to his kid. It's this challenge for all of us to look past what's on the surface and see that, hey, maybe there's room for spiritual growth in places we wouldn't expect. Who would thought decluttering could be a spiritual practice?
It's like he's saying even those boring chores, they can have meaning, purpose, if we just change our perspective a little.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that big question he keeps asking. What does it actually mean to become a fish? It's not about fitting into what the world says is successful. It's about, I think, embracing the potential that God gave you, finding a path that matches your values, your purpose.
Your own way to, make a difference, but guided by your faith, that desire to serve others.
Yeah. And just like Magikarp, remember, he's kind of awkward before he becomes Gyarados. We're probably going to face stuff, setbacks on our own journeys, but those are the things that shape us, refine us, make us who we're supposed to be.
It's not about running from the hard parts. It's about going through them, trusting that God's there with us.
Absolutely. And that makes me think of another story from the Bible. The father talks about Joseph. Remember him? Sold into slavery, falsely accused, ends up in prison.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a rough path.
But even when things are awful, he keeps his faith and, the ending. He ends up in a powerful position, saves his family from starvation.
It's like he's saying, even when it doesn't make sense, even when we're going through really hard times, God's still got a plan. He can use those things to bring about good.
That's it. It's about that trust, trusting his plan, even when it's tough. That's how we make it through, how we become, our best selves.
Okay, so if we were to actually live with this organizer's mindset, what would that look like? How do we bring more order, purpose, that intentionality, especially as Christians?
It starts with, I think, taking a good look at our lives. What parts feel messy, chaotic, not in line with what we believe? What are we clinging to, stuff, emotions, whatever, that's keeping us from getting closer to God?
So it's being real with ourselves, seeing where we're maybe out of step with his will.
Yeah, and then it's about making choices, on purpose to create that order, that alignment, not just in our homes, but in our relationships, our time, how we live out our faith.
It could be decluttering our houses, yeah, but also like setting boundaries with people who aren't good for us, making time to pray, read the Bible, or even just being more aware of how we use our time, our energy.
It's not about rules. It's about finding what works for you, creating a space, an environment that helps you grow spiritually.
Like kind of customizing it.
And, like anything else in our faith, it's something we got to keep working at, checking in, making changes, asking God for direction.
Always growing, changing, becoming more like Jesus.
Exactly. And what this Father's showing us, I think, is that even the simple things, the everyday things, they can be chances to grow closer to God, whether it's organizing our homes, or chasing after what we're passionate about, or just how we treat the people we meet. We can do it all with purpose, knowing that God's working through us.
So as you're going about your day, just think about this. What ordinary thing in your life, if you look at it differently, might actually have a deeper spiritual meaning? Maybe there's a hidden Gyarados waiting inside something you've always seen is just a little Magikarp. Keep exploring, just seeking God, and remember, even the small things we do out of faith, out of wanting to follow Him, they can make a real difference in our lives and the lives of everyone around us. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.